You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous. Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
Born wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia. And today I have back a repeat guest. Will you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, my name's Caley, and I was on, I want to say almost like a year ago for my previous 2 home births, but I just recently had a third.
Yes. So I will put a link to those 2 birth stories in the show notes for everyone who maybe wants to start there if you didn't hear the stories and then come back and listen to this one. So where does your journey start? Does it lead off after the last birth or conception, or where does it begin?
Yeah, I guess we could start it at the end of last birth. So at the end of last birth, I was pretty convinced that I was never going to have another baby. It was a beautiful birth and it was super fast and just actually picturesque at sunrise. And I just remember my mantra during that birth being like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. Because I have now 2 boys, or had 2 boys then. But fast forward, I want to say 2.5 years later, my husband and I, it happened with my first in a similar fashion. When we got pregnant, we did a dry January, and I was just really getting fit and taking care of myself. And right at the end of January, it was my birthday, and we had a little birthday surprise happen, which we were not expecting, which is my third pregnancy. So my husband, it's always been kind of a push and pull because my husband really wanted a lot of kids. He keeps saying he wants 6, and I was happy with 2. But I think, obviously we weren't being that careful. And I think because I had 2 boys, there was something deep inside me that was just oh, maybe we should try for the girl. I think 3 is a really nice number. It feels like a little tribe. So that happened, and it was a huge shock to us. But I thought it would be kind of nice because my first 2 were spaced super close together. I think I was 6 months postpartum when I got pregnant with my second. And now we had had this bigger gap of almost 2.5, 3 years. And so I thought it'd be really nice to have the toddlers go through the pregnancy and this whole thing. So it was kind of inconvenient as well because we were about to start traveling. My husband's Australian, and we had a trip planned to Australia. And just the whole idea of first of all, traveling with 2 toddlers to Australia while being in first trimester of pregnancy was pretty daunting.
Yeah.
And just being depleted, after 2 babies so quickly together, I was just starting to feel back to normal and regain my strength. So I think it's hard, it's exciting, but it was hard to be excited because I was just oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? 3 kids. And I don't really have much family. My husband's family is all in Australia, and then my parents have passed. So it's just us. And luckily we live in a community where there's a lot of support, and I've made a lot of friends. So that's been helping a lot. But yeah, going into that pregnancy, we were whoa, this is pretty wild.
Yeah, our nuclear families don't really do us any favors during child rearing years.
No, it's absolutely not how we should be living. And so I think that's where I was I feel kind of tapped into this ancient wisdom that I wasn't aligning with, because we're living, me and my husband, in this pretty big house on our own, these kids, and I just constantly felt I'm not aligned with what feels right. And this is why I was a home birther too, because I was this feels right to me. This feels natural. I'm a pretty fast birther, it turns out. I think the second baby came out, I can't even remember. The labor was I think pushing was 10 minutes or less. And labor was 4 hours or something.
Okay,
So
I only know I was there for 4 minutes.
Yeah, you should. I was like waiting. I was like, I'm not pushing this baby out without Sophia. So yeah, so I knew I could like the whole birth process I was comfortable with, but I think what this pregnancy ended up becoming was like it felt like a mountain I had to overcome. It was like a mountain of fear of like, can we handle three? Like now we're going to be outnumbered. We're already underwater. And on top of it, like there's a lot of tension between me, my husband and I with all this pressure on us. And I want to call my second child, I'll call him like spirited or spicy.
Mhm.
He is powerful and like extremely triggering for me. And so I was like struggling already trying to like navigate his toddlerhood. He was just 2.5 at the time. And so I was just feeling underwater already. And so this pregnancy became about like just getting through it and trying to stay stable. And that for me was like the hardest part. Like, this is my third time doing it, so I didn't feel so like fearful of like the outcome. And I was definitely going to do a home birth. This would have been my third time doing it. But new challenges were presented, which would be um, there's no midwives in my area. So we live kind of near Yosemite. And at that time, there's like a birthing center that's 2 hours away that a lot of people go to. And that's pretty much it. And there was like a couple, maybe like whispers of maybe there's this midwife who's a friend of a friend. And
Mhm.
so
Well,
it was
let me
kind of
give some
tricky.
reference because you were saying you weren't sure how long your labor was, and I pulled it up. It was 2.5 hours total.
Oh, right. Okay.
So talking about having a birth center 2 hours away, by the time you realize you're in
Exactly.
labor, good luck getting there.
Yeah, and like the birth center is up this super windy road that's on a cliff. So to get there, you're probably going to be driving in the middle of the night on this windy cliffside. And I'm like, I'm just gonna, if I tried to do that, I would be on the side of the road birthing like
Yeah.
cliffside this baby. And I just don't want to do that. So then we started thinking, should we free birth this baby? And like, I don't know. I love free birth. I think it's such a beautiful thing. But to like I always think like what makes me feel the most comfortable and I just always like want someone there who's like just just in case has like that encyclopedia knowledge of birds. I think it's
Well,
just
I
for
remember
me it's what was important.
you were saying that to me with your second pregnancy. You're like, yeah, my husband, he's like, let's just do this ourselves. And you're like, I just want one woman with me.
Yeah, just one because my husband's Australian. He's like very, very like capable, but I'm like, you haven't done many births. You've done like two births. I'm like, what if I start hemorrhaging? Then what? He's like, we'll figure it out. I'm like, okay, I want another. And like, there's something different about the energy of a woman, to like this kind of just like hyper masculine man. So yeah, I've always just felt like that's what I needed. But as we were traveling through the first and second trimester, we actually went to Australia to visit grandmother and some our kids' cousins and my husband's family, which ended up being like both great, but extremely like even putting more attention on our relationship and like also depleting me more. So like when you're traveling, you're not eating as well, you're running around. We didn't really have childcare over there, which we did in the States. So it was like more and more and more pressure on us and we're fighting more and there's more stress. And I could just like see my physical health like depleting. Like I looked different. I wasn't gaining weight. I wasn't like even my skin just looked like pale. I mean, I'm pretty pale already, but I just like I didn't look healthy. And so throughout that traveling in Australia through first and second trimester, then we decided to meet up with some of my husband's family in Bali. His sister was going with their little cousins. And I was like, I'm such a like traveler. I was just like, we can't turn this down. We have to go. Even
Mhm.
though I'm pregnant and it's a developing country and all these things. We have two toddlers. So we did that for about 5 weeks. And it was good in the beginning, but then our toddlers got sick. They call it Bali belly in
Oh,
in Australia. Everybody gets sick because you're not supposed to drink the water, but one of my toddlers still sucks his fingers and they
right.
touch it. They're boys. They're
Yeah.
touching everything. They're disgusting little cretins, but I love them. They're like complete little wildlings. And
Yeah.
so they got sick and
My
then
son licked a bowling ball when we went bowling once. I was like, I didn't think I had to make that a rule, like not to
yeah.
lick the bowling
Yeah.
ball.
Please don't do that. I know it's like you just don't even think about this stuff. We discovered my youngest at that point was drinking the shower water because I went in and I was like, "What are you doing?" Because he's just like, "Ah."
Ah.
Yeah.
And then, so the second half of that Bali trip got like really bad because my two toddlers went down. They were just wake up in the middle of the night, projectile vomiting. And then I got sick. So then I was vomiting diarrhea on the bathroom floor, pregnant in a foreign country. And then my husband got, and then like all the stress of that, I'm like, is the baby okay? Am I
Yeah.
drinking enough? And so it's just stressful. So we look back and laugh now, but my goodness, that was a crazy trip. I do not necessarily recommend toddlers in Bali. Like when they're a little older and they have better hygiene and like can always wash their hands and not drink shower water,
Yeah.
great. But so we came off that trip, like that was, then we came back to the States and then I kind of entered late second trimester, beginning of third. And my goal then, because I was doing a wild pregnancy as well. So I think I did one sonogram while I was in Australia at like the 20-week mark just to see if like where my placenta was and make sure everything kind of lined up for home birth. But
Mhm.
other than that, it was like pretty wild. And so I got back to the States and, I'm depleted, I'm unhealthy, I'm just feeling like emotionally drained. And remember being so tired, which was very different from my other pregnancies in the third trimester, where you're like, there's more excitement and energy happening. And I was just like, it felt like first trimester. I could barely get out of bed. I was kind of depressed. I was really anxious about birth. And it was like, I would get these intrusive thoughts of like, I'm going to die during this childbirth. I'm not healthy enough. I'm too depleted and I don't have any support. And so I kind of like kicked myself into gear and I started reaching out to the community, trying to find a midwife. And I ended up finding this woman. I even reached out to you. I was like, Sophia, I know you're far away, but like I need somebody. And so you were a huge help at just like helping with like calming my anxiety around that. But I definitely wanted someone present at the birth. So
Yeah,
I
because
ended
I was
up
like, well, we have a partnership now, so I can travel, but with how quickly you give birth, I think I'm like 5 hours away.
exactly. You're like, I would be there in a heartbeat, but I don't think I'm gonna make the birth. And so I was like, you're right. So I ended up finding this other woman through just like, I think I reached out on like Facebook community and she ended up being exactly what I needed. Her name's Alyssa, and I think this was the pregnancy where I needed more of like an emotional support. I needed like a doula midwife versus more of like a technical midwife because I like felt confident in my ability to birth, but I didn't feel like psychically like I was there. And I knew that was going to hold me back during birth and cause trouble. So she just coached me on like nutrition and like getting enough calories because when I'm stressed, I don't eat as much. And so I was just like, I need to like be gaining more weight. I feel so like just weak and frail. And so, she helped I think I even did a blood test with you because I was like, I'm convinced I had a parasite. I'm
Mhm.
still not sure if I do or don't, but like I felt like I was like, yeah, Bali just stayed with me. So I talked with Alyssa, she got me back on track, and then you recommended a really great homeopath doctor, Dr. Rab.
Yes.
She was incredible. And so I had like I was building out this birth team that was more like, let's get you physically feeling good. Let's get you emotionally feeling good so that you're prepped for this birth.
Mhm.
And even with the tension with my husband and I, because we both work from home, it was even like more. So it's like we're working from home, we've got the toddlers. Like it was just so much push and pull and so much tension there. And I just kept being like, I'm pregnant. I need to not be stressed. Stop stressing me out. But that like wasn't working. So Alyssa like helped coach me there and like helped me create like a little peace bubble as I started going to the third trimester.
Yeah,
And
and it's
then with
sweet because I actually got to meet her before your birth because I supported a mom up in Yosemite who I made it like an hour before the birth, but she was assisting there too as like the doula. So it was really sweet to get to meet her in person after you had been talking about her and like what are the odds that we'd like find ourselves
I
at birth
know.
together.
And it was so funny because I kept being like, wow, you guys like just come from the same school of thought around birth. And I was like, you guys would just like love each other. And then think I mentioned your name in passing to her. And she's like, wait, is her name Sophia? And she's like, I think I'm in a midwife's group with her. And she's like, I kind of am a fangirl as well. Like, because she does all these like cool little things. And so I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have to meet. This is so exciting. So yeah, serendipity there. I'm so glad that worked out.
Me too.
And she's great because she sees that there's a deficit in this community of like really of midwives in general and people who know how to birth. And So she's like really wants to educate the community and always is giving her time, and she's just incredible.
Clearly,
I
we need
don't
more birth workers in your area.
yes, especially because there's a lot of like I don't want to call it like there's a lot of like drug use, there's like some meth, and there's like a lot of people that get picked up in the EM, like her daughter, this midwife's daughter is an EMT, and sees a lot of like birth that's like really traumatic,
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be that way. And so she's like super passionate about just educating people,
Mm.
and she's so knowledgeable. So it felt like she was this mother figure, sister figure
Mhm.
in my life that I needed, because I don't have a mom. My mom's passed, and like that's what I felt like I needed. I was like, I need a mom. I need a mom right now. I need like someone to help guide me and to like hold me and just like tell me it's gonna be okay. And so she ended up doing that for me in spades, and I like can't thank her enough. So I felt like I started getting back on track. I started like really paying attention to what I was eating and taking care of myself and resting a lot. Um, and then I even started having spotting. So then it started getting to like 34 weeks, 35 weeks, I want to say. And
Yeah,
then
35 weeks when, or oh, 35 and 6 actually is when you texted.
yeah, so then I started freaking out because I was spotting, which I had never done in previous pregnancies. And like I said, I had these just like anxious, like intrusive thoughts about like bleeding out during pregnancy that were like totally just hormonal,
Mhm.
like fears. But you can get in your head with this stuff. And so I just kept like every little thing, I'd be like, oh, I'm spotting. This is so weird. Is the baby okay? And things like that. And I remember reaching out to you. I reached out to Alyssa, and all of you guys were amazing. You're just like, okay, this is normal. Like this is within the range of normal. Like if you were prolap, like I forget what we were thinking it would be, uterine, not uterine, placental prolapse or something.
Well, maybe previa, like
Previa,
yeah,
maybe previa, or like where the placenta kind of comes off the wall of the
eruption, like
uterus.
a partial separation.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I remember you asking me like, well, what would make you feel more comfortable? Like what do you need? Like what kind of assurance do you need right now? And so I think I even at that point thought, okay, well, let me just get a ultrasound just to put my mind at ease.
Mhm.
And I reached out to, there's only one doctor within like 40 minutes of me that does like home births, or like used to, and approves of them, and it's not a big deal. And I think when you're a home birther, you get this like kind of fear of like the judgment and the shame within the medical system, especially since I had had such a wild pregnancy.
Mhm.
And so you're kind of scared to even go in because you don't know if you're like, are you going to get in trouble, even though this is perfectly legal and within my right to do?
Trouble, and like you can feel so vulnerable that you could easily maybe be scared into something that later you're like, wait a minute, that
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, if I go in and like all of a sudden they put me on some like, oh, we need to induce you immediately, what do I do? So I was like super fearful to do it, but I thought, you know what? If I just like this guy's home birth friendly, let me try it. And it's honestly the only OB/GYN appointment I've had for all three births. And I was thinking like, oh, well, okay, let's try this like new model. I've heard that he's the guy to go to. So got an appointment with him, show up. And I was just like, it's such a different model. And I just was like, I remember being like in shock because it's like the bright lighting of the hospital setting, and then the depersonalization of like my medical sheet. And I remember him reading my blood labs that I had done with you, and he's kind of going down, and he's like, cortisol, why would we care to measure that during pregnancy? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe because it's an important factor in pregnancy. And
because
he just
stress level doesn't matter at all.
exactly. And I was like, I'm spotting, and my midwife said, just that's your body saying you need to rest. And he was like, oh, rest is just an old myth, an old midwife's tale. And I was like, I don't think it is, because when I rest, like my bleeding
Well,
stopped.
and when you have any sort of preterm labor stuff, they put you on bed rest. Like,
Exactly. So, and then he answered like a PG&E call like during the appointment, and he didn't even look at me. Like he was just looking at the chart, and I was just like, I'm so glad that I've chosen midwives, number one, and home births, like for all of my, like I feel super grateful to be able to be in that position and to not have to deal with this like kind of appointment. And it just felt, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And eventually, like really, I was just there to get the ultrasound. And so he pops me up on the table, does this ultrasound really quickly. And then he made another comment. I can't even remember. He's like, should we have like a look inside? Because I was like, sure, like that sounds good. But then without asking, he just like put his fingers inside and like jammed up on my cervix, which I'm like, please don't start the bleeding again, you know? And I just was like, I'm so traumatized by this experience. So I left that office and was like, you know what? I'm gonna just calm myself. I know everything's gonna be okay. Talk to my midwives. I need to like trust the path and not like get in my own head about this stuff.
Mhm.
So I kind of just decided at that point to just like trust it, trust the universe. You know, I think there's something empowering about home birth, but it's also scary to take on that risks yourself. And, you know, what if something happens to the baby? The what ifs, you know, what if something happens to me? And so I think it's like, but really empowering too, because you can just, at the end of the day, like take full ownership of the process.
Yeah.
And
Well,
at
because
the
I think
end of it,
too, our culture sees that if something happens to the baby, it has to be someone's fault, you know? So it
exactly.
can't just be like something that happens. So if it's nobody else's fault, then does that mean it's yours, you know?
Exactly. And there's all this shame. And it's like you kind of have to be able to take full responsibility and like trust in nature, right? Like if something happened to the baby, there's like a reason for that. And there's like a whole natural process. There's a whole natural cycle. There's birth and death and so many things like that we're part of. And like that's just a reality. Like even having 3 kids now, I'm haunted constantly by like, what if something happens to them, you know? But like that's just what being a parent is. Like your job is to do your best, take care of them, but that could always happen. Like this is life. Like people live and die and it's a cycle. And so I was really like leaning hard into just like that, just like we're all connected and it's okay. Like let's just like lean into the fear and
There
let
was a
go of
point
it.
I think that you were even considering, can I just make it down to Petaluma? And like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah, because I was like, you're the only person I trust, Sophia. Like I know you like you birthed my last child. Can I just come to you? Because like at that point, I just like I trusted you so much. Like you were like I felt safe. And I think that's where I got to in this pregnancy is like I wasn't feeling safe at home because my husband and I were like constantly fighting. And then I had this like new midwife who I felt really safe with, but like I'm trusting this person who I've never birthed with. And
Mhm.
so like in that like panic, I was like, I feel safe with Sophia. Everyone she's recommended me to see, chiropractors, holistic medicine, have just been like top notch. And I was just like, I want to be in your community. Like, I don't have a big enough birth team. I would have added like 10 people to my birth team at that point.
Well, because I
But
think we also have a private sonographer that, is home
yes,
birth friendly. And so you're like, well, maybe if I just make it down there and then I'm
yeah.
surrounded by a safe community,
Yeah,
but
who won't judge me and who will like support me and not
yeah,
add to my anxiety. I
yeah.
think I even had a call with her and she was incredible too. She took like 30 minutes to chat with me. She's a sonographer like 2 hours away and she was just like 4 hours away. And she was like just asking how I was doing, you know? And it was like, what are you doing? How are you doing? Like, and like workshopping with me. And I didn't pay this woman. She just like took time out of her day. And like I just remember feeling so grateful and like understanding that like this is why we need women at birth because we all get it. Like and I remember saying like, you know, I'm spotting and I've never done this before. And she's like, honey, I have seen women who spot when they do the dishes. And it just means to just take it easy, you know, have a lay down and like your body's just telling you something.
Yeah.
And like there was just such wisdom in that that I think our generation is kind of missing because I think a lot of our moms did the hospital route and like the formula route and like we're missing this like shared ancient knowledge of like what birth is. And so I could sense it. I could sense that it was there out there for me. So I'm really glad that I got to like meet the people like you, like Alyssa, like all these other women who kind of coached me through. Um, so yeah, I think my husband thought I was insane. The hormones definitely went a little bonkers. This third one, I don't know how the hormones work with like subsequent pregnancies, but these felt like off the chart. Uh, I
Like
was,
they're like after pains, they build exponentially with each
yeah,
pregnancy.
it totally felt that way. And so I was definitely like a little loony because at some point I was like packing bag. I was like, I'm going to Sophia. And he's like, you're what? He's like, I kind of want to be there for the birth. I was like, it's about me. And And so, yeah, I'm glad he talked me off the ledge there. And was like, let's just take it one day at a time. If you start like hemorrhaging, like we'll figure it out. We'll go to the ER. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna stay put. I started seeing Alyssa, the midwife at that point. Like I think I doubled our sessions just to get that like talk me off the ledge kind of thing. And then as the birth started approaching, it was this similar thing with when I birthed with you, Sophia, where it was like, because I birthed my first 2 weeks early, and then I birthed my second a week after the due date, I was like thinking again that it was going to come early. I don't know why.
Mhm.
So I was like prepped at like
Most women
35.
think that their baby's coming early, and most women go late.
Exactly. And it's such a like even I and even knowing the like data on that, like a due date is not like a
Mhm.
due date, it's
Yeah.
a range. But still, I was just like 35 weeks, I'm ready. 36 weeks, I'm ready. 37 weeks.
Well,
And
especially when there was bleeding, because that was one thing where we're like, well, it could just be the sign of your cervix dilating, like if your baby,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like nervously, anxiously waiting. But then the bleeding came and went. I just rested, hydrated, tried to like focus on eating. I think it was my body's way of like confirming, like, yes, this has like, been a lot. Like, you need to slow down. I was also working full time at that point and trying to get a pregnancy app out, which was pretty funny. So it was just a lot. And so I slowed down, I got prepped, and then I kept trying to like communicate to my husband, like, I just need this, like, I need oxytocin, like, I need calm, I need peaceful. But like, is that possible with two toddlers? I don't think it is. Like we kept just fighting over like parenting styles and this and that and details about the birth and like who I wanted a friend to be there and he didn't. And so it was just getting like really heated constantly. And I just kept trying to create this peace bubble. And it kind of came to like a culmination hormonally for me where there was one day where I just lost it. I became like an ape, like where I was just like screaming. I think the kids were in daycare and I was just like, my husband and I were going back and forth about this person who I wanted at the birth and he didn't because he just wanted it to be us. And I just lost it because I was like, it's about me. I'm telling you, I'm scared of dying in this birth. I'm scared. I'm feeling fearful. I want this person there. And so we just had this explosive fight about it. And I literally became like, yeah, an ape is the only way I can describe it. I was like a panic attack almost. I was pacing back and forth and I went in the room and I like locked myself in a closet because I just needed like a small container and I just wanted to be away from him. I remember being like, I just need to call my friend who's like a sister to me. And so I called her and I think it was like a bubbling up of all these fears that I hadn't released. And it just came to a head with all the hormones. And so I called her in tears, crying, and I'm gonna die in this pregnancy, in this birth, and I'm not feeling supported by my husband and all this stuff. And it just became like she was the best person to call because she just talked me right off the ledge and was like, it's gonna be okay. Like, tell me everything that you're scared of. Like, just let it out. And so I just like sobbed into her arms, her virtual arms. She lives in New York. And, she was like, you need to like take some space tonight. Just do whatever you find to be like the most relaxing, calm thing. Like, focus on you. Don't worry about you and your husband. Don't worry about the kids. Like, just take some time for you. And in the meantime, I think my husband got really freaked out because he like never seen gorilla me, where I was just like this ape that was screaming and like slamming doors in my room and shutting myself in a closet. I think at some point he like knocked and tried to like open the door and I was like, go, like I screamed at the top of my lungs. And he was just like freaked out. So he actually called our midwife and she gave him some good advice of like, look, you're the protector here. Just protect the space, give her what she needs, support her, don't make it about you. Um, and she even said, he told me later on the call, she's like, I have a feeling your birth's gonna happen tonight. Like all this just emotions, like coming out. And so I ended up taking space in my room that night and I told him, look, I just kind of want to be on my own. I need to cool off. And so he respected that and was like, okay, cool, whatever you need. And I put on like 101 Dalmatians because it was a childhood favorite of mine. I
Aw.
just, I don't know why. I was just like when I was little, I used to get scared of monsters and I like loved that movie and I would always imagine like all the 101 Dalmatian puppies with me and it would always make me feel safe. So for some reason I was just like, I'm gonna watch this movie because it makes me feel safe. And I put it on and then I forgot how much pregnancy is in it. Like it's literally about like the woman gets pregnant and then like the Dalmatian mom gets pregnant and has births this litter that the then gets stolen and the whole thing. So it just like made me like I guess oxytocin just completely rose and it just like put me at ease. And I fell asleep that night. And I think around like 1 a.m. I woke up with like proper contraction that like woke me out of a sleep. And I thought, okay, this could be it. But I'm not gonna like, take any bets on it. I'm just gonna kind of quietly pace around, put my hypnobirthing track on. And so I just like wandered around the house quietly for a bit. And then probably around like 1:45 or 1:30, I was like, yeah, this is definitely it. Like I started ramping up a bit. So it's so cool. And I love this about birth that it really puts you into this primitive state of like it's almost like time travel. And I just like you're not thinking, but you know exactly what to do.
Mhm.
Like I put myself in my bathroom, I lit a candle, I made like a little bed on the ground of blankets and pillows. And I love birthing or I like laboring on the toilet. I learned that from my first birth. I think I read it in an INMA book or saw in a documentary, like just sitting on the toilet, like during the contractions helps you open up. And so for all of my births, I've done that. And so I sat on the toilet doing some breathing with the hypnobirthing track for a bit. And then my husband kind of like heard rustling and he pops his head and he's like, is it happening? And I was like, I guess you're welcome back in the birth chamber, but you need to be chill. And so at that point, I was like, okay, they're really ramping up. I hadn't even started timing them. And I was like, maybe we should call the midwife and just let her know. So I texted her and then I put the contraction timer on. I don't know how I can like still do this because like I can pretty much I was still talking too, but I look at the timer, I'm like, uh-oh, they're like 4 minutes apart, almost less than 4 minutes. And so he's like, do you want me to tell her to come now? Because she was about 20 minutes away. And I was like, no, no, it's fine. Like, there's no way the baby's coming yet. It's been an hour, you know? And then sure enough, like the baby just like came like thunder. It was just like, and I also didn't know the sex at this point too. So, and at this point, I know my last mantra was like, I'm never doing this again. It was kind of the similar thing of like, I just want this over with. Like, this has been such a mountain of a pregnancy. I just need to get it over with. I need to get on the other side of the mountain. And so that was just like my core focus. I was doing these dragon breaths, breathing down. That was just like the baby was just barreling down. There was no even like crown molding when she came out. And so the head comes out. My husband's like, wait, I have to call the midwife. And like he's texting her, like, come now, come now, come now. And the baby's just barreling out. And I think it was like one or two pushes max. And she like flew out, perfectly pink, crying. And I remember just being like, I don't know why I couldn't let go of the thought of like, I'm gonna hemorrhage, I'm gonna hemorrhage. And so I was like so terrified. Like I was like, is Alyssa here yet? Where am I bleeding? How's the blood look? How's the blood look? And like I was holding the baby, she was crying, trying to get her to latch. But oh, the funnier detail was like right as I was crowning too, we really wanted our toddlers to be at the birth experience, but because it all happened so fast, like my husband was just literally there, like getting ready to catch the baby. So he didn't have a chance to go wake the kids because it was, 2 in the morning at this point. And all of a sudden, my youngest, Bodhi, just opens the bathroom door. And I wasn't being that loud. I was doing these like low breaths, but like they live on the other side of the house, or their room's on the other side of the house. And so he just pops his head in. He was like, "Hey, mama," at like 2 in the morning. It's like, "What's going on in here?" And then I could hear him just looking, and he just like took the whole thing in and was like, "You're doing great, mama." Like I could hear him. It was
Aw.
so cute. So it's really cool that he like smelled it or like sensed it. Really strange. So after the baby came out, then we woke up my other
When
child,
did
and
your water break?
at the moment of crowning, like as she came out, which I think is similar for the other two as well. I don't know why, but I have like pretty strong water bags. I've never
Yeah, I
experienced like
think
the
he
water
was born
breaking.
in his bag because I think I had just said like you can just
Oh,
take
that's
off
right.
the
Yeah, he was
manger.
on call. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so more like my first, where it like burst. I could feel it just go pop. And yep, she came out, and then it was all like so quick. And then my husband was like, I think it's a girl. Because throughout the pregnancy, because I already had two boys, I was like, I know it's a boy. It's got to be a boy. Like, I'm not even gonna get my hopes up for a girl. I'm just gonna like, it's okay. Because everyone in this
I'm a boy
town,
mom. That's what
I'm
I
a boy
am.
mom. It's fine. Because we have a lot of friends. Like three different friends have three boys. Like everyone in this town I know has three boys. And I'm just like, and I've seen them all get disappointed with the third pregnancy. So I'm just like, but my husband told me, he's like, I know it's a girl. I know it's a girl the whole time. And so he was right. So yeah, she came out, but we weren't, he's like, I think it's a girl, but it was so dark. He couldn't see, and she was latched on. So we didn't want to bother her at that point. So we checked later once we were like, Alyssa was looking her over and making sure everything looked good. And she's like, it is a girl. But then the only like weird thing, well, after she came out, I'm holding her. And then like, I remember like my toddlers coming in and asking me a million questions and just being like, hey, mama, hey, mama, hey, mama, mama. And like the baby's crying. And I remember being like, yep, this is my life. Like overstimulation central. But it was really, really sweet. And it was just beautiful. So I think that birth ended up being like an hour and a half max.
Yeah.
So super blessed to like be able to get through birth that quickly. I totally credit it to like hypnobirthing, chiropractor, and just like having an amazing support team.
Yeah.
And breathing, just knowing how to breathe is like everything. So, but the midwife still wasn't there, so I'm holding her, and I was like scared to birth the placenta because I'm like, what if I hemorrhage then? Like that's the most dangerous part. And so I just kind of like waited, and she showed up like 5 minutes after the baby came out. And then we moved to the bed and like birthed the placenta, which came out fine. And she took it, I forget what it's called when she had a look at the placenta. She came in like an hour later after like, we had our little love bubble and we like did the cord cutting. And she was like, you had something with the way that your umbilical cord was attached to the placenta. It's like not strong, or like it was strong on one side, but like partially detached. Not partially detached. I can't remember the word for it.
Was it, if I said it, would you recognize it?
Yeah,
Velamentous?
I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Basically, that means like when the blood vessels go through like the membrane partially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it's like a frayed cord.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, what does that mean? Is that okay? She's like, yeah, it's fine. It's just like if you had a short cord, it could have been problematic, but ended up being fine. And
Like we see them all in hindsight and we're like, whew.
yeah, she's like, at least we didn't yank on the cord and like break off
Yeah.
because that would have been a bad situation. So, but that's like letting natural like birth unfold naturally, right? Like
Right.
she did no pulling of the cord. It was just like, let's just do one more push. Placenta came out and as it should.
It's like at the hospital, maybe it could be an issue because they fiddle so much and
Yep.
it can cause problems, and then they blame it on the
Right.
cord.
Exactly. Where it's like maybe you should have just like used gravity and not like tried to birth the placenta on someone's back. There's just so many things. So it's like it unfolded as it should. And it was actually all I wanted for birth was like a safe birth. That was like my dream birth. I didn't really care what time of day, where. I just wanted it to like, because of all the emotional fear that I had. But my husband, since baby one, has wanted a wild birth. So in a way, he got his wish too, because it was like we got to have this like kind of wild birth. So it was just like really magical. But then what happened is like we're laying in bed, everyone's happy, midwife's like just cleaning up, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave you guys. Everything looks good, bleeding looks good. And she looks at my well, I guess my middle child at that point, Bodhi. She's like, huh, does he always sweat when he sleeps? And I was like, no, I didn't think much of it. She's like, huh, okay. Sure enough, the next day he wakes up with like 104 fever, and we have a brand new newborn, and he's got like sores on his mouth, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, only my child could like contact an infectious disease like the day that his sister's born. And sure enough, that was like, so that first week of her life was like absolute hell, because we have this kid who we thought it was strep throat at first. later, as it progressed, figured out it was hand, foot, and mouth,
I was
which
gonna
is
ask
like,
if it's hand, foot, mouth. Yeah.
like his whole mouth had sores. He couldn't eat for days. He couldn't drink, and it was like
Horrible.
totally stealing the show. So
He's like, I still want attention, even though I'm not the baby.
yeah, and I think the stress of it, because I learned later he was getting really clingy in my later trimesters,
Mhm.
like where he was sleeping through the night, all of a sudden he was waking up every night at like 3 a.m. and coming into my bed. And if I tried to put him back, he would wail. So like I had to like kind of give in because I just like I think he could sense it. Like he could just feel the coming change. He could sense the hormones. He's a really sensitive kid. And so I was really worried about them being at odds. And so then it's horrible because you have this newborn who you're like, stay away from the baby, like, constantly trying to keep him away. And it ended up weirdly being fine after 10 days of like absolute torture where all he did was like cry all day and couldn't eat. It was like so painful. He and the baby have this like weird bond where he's not jealous at all. And he's like, that's my baby girl.
Oh.
Give me that baby girl. Like he's so cute with her. So it all worked out in the end. And yeah, I'm just like so glad it's over. And then when we were thinking about a name, we thought like, we live in the Sierra Nevadas and like we had a girl's name picked out from baby number one that we were going to use. But then when she was born, I was like, you know what? This pregnancy has been such a mountain to like get over. And like we live in the Sierra Nevadas. And so we just picked the name Sierra because we thought it was like kind of poetic. And she felt like an earthy baby. The other name we had picked out was Aurora, which was like more celestial, but she
Mhm.
felt real like of the earth. And the weirder part was we're telling our midwife like all these name ideas, and she didn't really say much. She was like, "Oh, they're all beautiful." And then we landed on Sierra. She was like, "I have a Sierra too." I was like, "I knew it was meant to be." So, so cool.
That's sweet.
So that is the whole birth story of Sierra. Sierra Jane. We named her after my husband's mom, Jane.
Oh, sweet. What was breastfeeding like? Like any struggles there? Has that been pretty smooth?
Yeah, breastfeeding for me usually is pretty smooth. I produce a lot of milk, so it's like, fire hose central in the early days, and she gained so much weight. It's weird because it was later, it was like around 2.5 months where like her weight kind of dropped off a bit. And I hadn't really been like weighing her every week. I was weighing her like once every 2 weeks, or at that point I was like, oh, she's perfectly on track. And then I waited a month and I weighed her again and she had only gained like 4 or 5 ounces and I was freaking out. And then I was like, is she not getting enough milk? And like it's always something with, even with your third child, you still have all these freakouts. And so at that point, I was like, oh, I don't know, like maybe I'm not producing enough, but she wouldn't take a bottle, so I couldn't like pump and see how much she was drinking. So I tried weighing her and all this stuff. But I think it just ended up being we're a pretty lean family, and this happened with my first two. Like he dropped 2 lines off the weight chart because we're just lean. And like as they got bigger, that's just how we are. And
Yeah.
where my second child was like, he followed the weight curve pretty normally, and my husband's like a different build. So I
Mhm.
think she just has like my more like lean build, and
Mhm.
she seems like she's totally doing fine. And now that I'm back at work, we're just doing a lot of pumping anyway. So I'm like, she's totally fine. She's drinking like 4 ounces every 3 to 4 hours and sleeping well. And then the other thing I'm doing differently with her is co-sleeping. So we're doing bed sharing, which has been really nice, I have to say. Because my first one, I was like too terrified. Everyone's like, you're gonna roll on the baby, you're gonna smother the baby. So like I did the whole bassinet and swaddling. But still in me, I was like, this doesn't feel natural. Like there's something wrong. Like it doesn't feel aligned with how I feel like what comes naturally to me. And then with Bodhi, we did swaddling again. But there was just something so different with like having this third baby, this like little girl. I was like, I can't swaddle you. The world's gonna hold you back already. Like, I don't want to swaddle you. I don't want to restrain you. And so we've just been co-sleeping, which has just been like super magical. And because I think with my first two, they were born so closely together, it was just chaos.
Yeah.
So now I had like a little gap where I'm like, I can enjoy the newbornness of her.
Yeah.
And so it was just a super special third trimester of just like almost like a vacation too, because at that point I'm like, my husband kind of had to take care of the toddlers, which is like a lot. And I would just kind of retreat to the room and take care of the newborn. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like a nice like reprieve of the chaos of the yelling and the fighting.
You're like, we're
So,
having girls' day.
yep. And it's nice to have a girl. Like the bonding feels totally different. Like just even her eye gazing and just I took her on a girls trip over New Year's to Fort Bragg, and I took her to New York City. I work for this company that's period tracking, and it's all moms. Like, and so she was like, come out to New York. We'll like talk about what we want to do this year. Bring the baby, you know? And so like we all just like met up and did this like fun work trip with just me and Sierra when she was, I think, 8 weeks, 9 weeks old.
Fun.
Yeah, so it's been really, really nice having a daughter. I'm like, I can't even believe it.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned like third time mom and still feeling like, is this normal? But it's like even if you know how to dance, you're dancing with a new partner now. So you're just like stepping on toes and just trying to figure it out together, you know?
Yep, and they are all so different. Like
Mm.
she's luckily, I kept saying like if I get another spicy child, I'm in trouble, and she is not. She's like super mellow, lovely, like smiley, just like a happy little baby. So I just like I'm so because if I had another spicy one, I think I'd be like, really, really underwater. If I'm already underwater, like I don't know how I would get out of that. But yeah, so I feel like super grateful,
Mm.
and yeah, it's been awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, will you share any contact info? We can leave it in the show notes.
Yeah, totally. I'm like super passionate about birth. I have tons of tips. Every time someone gets pregnant, I always try to like share my knowledge. I'm not pushy, so it's like I always say like whatever makes you feel the most comfortable, go with.
Mhm.
But I do think there's education that you should know and knowledge to share before making a decision about birth. And so I love like giving all that to friends when they get pregnant, and hypnobirthing tracks, and just all little birth tips and things like that. So don't
Great,
be shy.
great, great. Awesome. Well, thank you again. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much, Sophia.
Okay, everyone, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to the Born Wild podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe every week to get the latest one.
And please follow us on Instagram at Born Wild Podcast, as well as Facebook. You can also write to us at info@bornwildmidwifery.com, as well as our website, bornwildmidwifery.com.
And remember,
Stay wild.